I'm Robert Cavuto, and today on Sonic Perspectives, we are speaking with Damon Johnson of Brother Cain to talk about the band's 30th anniversary reunion, the reissue of their 1993 debut album that's coming out October 20th, and to talk about two new songs that are going to be packaged with it. Welcome, as you got a lot to talk about today. It's a pleasure to speak with you always.
Robert, always a pleasure, buddy.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Well,
having me on. I did not see any of this stuff coming. I saw some old friends last night. Alice Cooper played here in Nashville, and all the guys in his band were like, "Bro, what is happening? Like, you've got too much going on." And I'm like, I I have no answer to that question. It just all started kind of coming together. So I appreciate you having me on,
yeah,
Robert.
thank you. We've spoken
Have a
for
chance to talk about all this.
yeah, we've spoken in the past for battle lessons and the solo album before that. So it's always a pleasure.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
crazy thing
Thanks,
is, it's
man.
a 30th reunion. We're only 35 years old. How could it be? How could this be
I
possible?
know we were children. We were children when we made
We're in
that
diapers.
record. Yeah. Well, there's Brother Cain has always held such a almost spiritual place in my brain, Robert. None of the things that have happened in my career post Brother Cain, which really the band broke up in like late 99, early 2000, somewhere in there. Everything that's happened since then, none of it would have happened without Brother Cain. That band and those songs are kind of what it was the country's introduction to who Damon Johnson is, or the sound of my voice, or my songwriting, or whatever, guitar playing. So I just always kind of I eternally have loved the songs, and grateful for the experiences we had as a band. But I also felt like, well, yeah, to do that again, I don't know, it would have to be right. I wouldn't want to just get everybody to jump in a rental car and go start playing bars or something. The songs, we had such a great team around us back then. I just felt like the songs deserved a little bigger of a platform. So I just put it out of my mind. I had plenty to do, plenty to fulfill me creatively and musically, and plenty of opportunities to play live. So I guess 2021 was such a unique year for all of this, Robert. And that's when you and I spoke last for the Battle Lessons record. I was thoroughly content to stay on that path. My power trio, we made a great record with my great friend and producer, Nick Raskulinix. And I was as busy as I wanted to be, kind of coming out of the
Yeah.
pandemic and all of that. Then I got a manager, Kevin. Kevin has just been like a godsend. He just fell out of the sky, just dropped into my lap inexplicably. Then I get this call from Ricky Medlock and Johnny Van Zant about filling in for Gary Rosington and Skinner.
Right.
Again, I had no concept that a call like that would be coming in. So I was so honored that they reached out, and I was grateful that we could work it out. So I started playing with those guys. And then whenever I would go to the shows, Robert, I would run into fans. Everyone was asking about Brother Cain. The fans were asking, Johnny Van Zant, Medlock, all the Skinner camp. Hey man, Brother Cain, that was such a great band. That's the first time we ever heard of you. And what about that band? And don't forget about that band. And so Kevin, my manager, he kind of overheard some of these conversations, and he took me to lunch one day. He said, "Hey man, what about Brother Cain?" And it was then and only then that I even opened my musical brain up to even considering it,
Yeah.
because I knew it was going to be impossible to get the original band back together. Everybody lives in different states and has different commitments. And I mean, let's be real, 23 years, that's a long time
Yeah.
to, to be basically inactive. So my original bass player, Glenn Maxey, Glenn, we started playing together in 1990 when I put a band together to showcase for the record companies with these new songs that I had written with a singer, friend of mine. And Glenn was there through all of that. You know, we got a development deal with Virgin. We had several member changes, and then we changed the name to Brother Cain, and we made that first record. And it's like we jumped on a rocket ship, man. Everything started happening. It just felt kind of like an out of body experience. And it was too much for Glenn, Robert. So he was only with us that first album and that first tour. And we'd sort of kept in touch, you know, but he went a different path. I went a different path. So part of the biggest fulfillment of all of this is reconnecting with Glenn Maxey.
Yeah.
I credit Glenn. He was the one guy in my band at that time that convinced me to also become the lead singer.
Wow.
I've talked about that several times over the years, so I don't want to be redundant with you, but I just remember Glenn saying, "Hey man, you should do it." Because I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
I wasn't a singer. I wanted to be a lead guitar player, period, and write songs with a singer. And he said, "You should do it, man. You don't sound like anybody else. You haven't been trying to sound like Paul Rodgers or Robert Plant or Rod Stewart. You just sound like you when you sing." So it's very special to reconnect with Glenn and have his enthusiasm. And the rest of the new Brother Cain guys are all of my buddies that have been on my solo stuff, you know, for the last 7 or 8 years. So it's really exciting. I can't wait for this tour that's coming up. I know you mentioned in the intro about we're putting out the debut record on vinyl. That none of those titles were ever issued on vinyl. So it's a huge thrill for me, and the fan base seems to be pretty fired up.
Yeah. Now, getting back to Glenn, do you think, did things fall into place when you first jammed with him after X number of years?
It really did. I know that, you know, he had started playing bass again kind of on the backside of the pandemic. So I knew he had gotten back to his instrument and was simply thinking that way again. But, you know, it was just a really special day when I called him, because I called Kevin first. I said, "Hey, man, I'm thinking about calling the original bass player, Glenn Maxey." And I called Glenn. I totally blew his mind. It blew his mind.
Yeah.
He talk about not expecting a phone call. And just his excitement about it, I think, gave me whatever remaining hesitation I had of like, I don't know, should we do this at all? To hear Glenn and feel him get so fired up, I was like, "Hey man, if nothing else, let's do this for Glenn Maxey." Because his energy is enough. It's a powder keg, man. This will propel.
Good.
It'll propel this thing forward. So yeah, he showed up at that very first rehearsal. Sorry, man, I dropped my AirPod. Honestly, Robert, I think Glenn was the most prepared out of all of us. You know, I can't remember what song it was, but we were running through it, and I stopped and went, "Man, I'm not sure about this chord." And Glenn goes, "That's an A minor." I was like, "Oh, thanks." You know, and I wrote it. I wrote the song, so it's like, so I appreciated his just his dedication. He really put in the time, and you know, it's probably a little weird for him too, because you know, we had 3 albums, and Glenn was not a part of the second and third album, and he put just as much time into preparing those songs as he did the ones that he had played with us. So he's a huge part of this thing. He's a huge part of it for me, and just incredibly fulfilling. It's special, you know, for us to be playing music together again after all these years.
Yeah, you guys are going to be playing in New Jersey, the Nellen Theater. So I'm going to come out and see you. I'll do a review. I'll take some pictures. So that'd be fun.
Great, Robert. Thank you for you just educated me on the proper way to pronounce that. Nellen. Is
Denellen.
that right?
Yes, Denellen.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Denellen. I've called it every other Dunelin, Dunellen, Denellen. That makes
Denellen.
more sense.
Yeah.
So
Denellen.
thank you.
Yeah.
That's
Now,
that's information I can use.
so like we talked, you're going to be releasing the self-titled album on vinyl October 20th, but you also have two new songs, Blinded by the Sun and Are You in There Anymore? Are You There Anymore? Excuse me. Will they be packaged on the release somehow? How is that all coming together?
We're going to do something very cool, very exciting. The vinyl is going to be a totally accurate reproduction of the original CD.
Mhm.
All 11 songs, all on one vinyl. It's got the original artwork. It's got some additional artwork from back then. We are going to manufacture a 7-inch single, 45 speed
Yeah.
single that's going to have the two new songs, Blinded by the Sun on one side, Are You in There Anymore on the other side. And we're going to bundle that at the shows with the 30th anniversary vinyl.
Nice.
It's another one of the fringe benefits about working with my manager, Kevin. He and Dave Williams have had essentially what's a vinyl record club based out of here in Nashville. So they had all these great ideas about, they're just very in that world. So they know what the fans like. They know just things that people get excited about. So I know that when we first announced the pre-order for the 30th anniversary debut album reissue, there were 3 different variants. Um, I know that one of those is already sold out. It's like a pre-order. So,
Yeah.
again, I'm so grateful to have Dave and Kevin to help us with that. But the 7-inch of the new songs, wow, what a great idea. What a great idea.
Fun.
And yeah, man, and those 2 new songs, of everything that we've talked about, Robert, the thing that I am most excited about, more than the shows, more than the guys in the band, more than the 30th anniversary reissue, I'm most excited about these 2 new songs. When Kevin first said, "Hey, man, it'd be a good idea to have some new material," my initial reaction was like, "Oh, wow, I haven't even thought I hadn't thought of that." It just felt like a tall order because,
Yeah.
in my mind, I'm like, oh, wow, now we're in competition with Got No Shame, Full Shine On, I Lie in the Bed I Made. Those were all #1 songs at rock radio. The other songs, Hard Act to Follow, Bread Maker, Machete, on and on. I cannot be more proud and happier with these 2 new songs than I am.
Yeah.
The band played out of their shoes. They did such a great job. It was great to reconnect with my old friend Marti Frederiksen. He produced these 2 songs. He was such a vital part of Brother Cain back in the 90s. So yeah, I just think it's an amazing uh it's an amazing moment for Brother Cain fans. I've always said they're some of the most, there may not be very many of them, Robert, but they're the most passionate fans you could ever hope to have. So it's a lot of fun for all of us to kind of feed off that energy with all this new stuff that we're coming out with.
Well, that's what I was going to say. There was definitely a strong energy reminiscent of the enthusiasm that you guys had when you were putting out the debut album on those two new songs. I thought they were terrific. And I have to ask, were they leftover tracks that maybe never made it to the record, or were they brand new that you and Glenn sat down to work out recently?
These are brand new songs that I wrote over the last 6 months. Blinded by the Sun was this monster guitar riff that went through a couple of different iterations. And I played it for Marty and he loved it immediately. And as he does, man, he's such a great, great songwriter and a producer. He gave me a couple of kind of action statements like, hey, man, take a look at this and here's an idea. And I went back home and worked on it. And so that one turned out the way that it did. And I made a demo and the guys came in and we recorded it. Are You in There Anymore just holds such a special place for me, Robert. I can't remember writing a lyric ever that I'm more proud of. Sorry, man. I got to, I didn't put my, I didn't put my phone on do not disturb, and I got all these calls coming in. Sorry.
All good.
Um, yeah, so Are You In There Anymore on a personal level? It just reflects all of my deep love and kind of study of classic songwriters, man. Tom Petty, John Prine, Neil Young. I love Jason Isbell. Jason's one of the best writers in the world, man. He's one of the best of this generation for sure. I get inspired by his writing as much as any rock music I listen to. You know, I sometimes I feel like I don't need to hear any more guitar players, man. I'm all set with that. I got that. Great lyrics and great storytelling. I'm always looking for it. So I really feel like Are You In There Anymore reflects some of that. I'm so proud of that and how it turned out. That is an idea that started with my old friend Ricky Warwick from Black Star Riders. You know,
Yeah.
he was the singer in Thin Lizzy. That title and that chorus lyric we had worked on one time, and I was super excited about it. And then we wound up going off and doing something else. So that had literally been sitting on my iPhone, Robert, for about 8 years.
Wow.
And then I just took that one line, Are you in there anymore? Are you in there anymore, my friend? And then I just sat down, cup of coffee, pen and paper, and
Banged it out.
stayed in it for a few hours. And again, the band played so great
Oh
on
yeah.
that
I
as
agree.
well.
From a guitar perspective, how do you approach making music for Brother Cain versus your solo album versus even back in the day for Black Star Riders?
What a great question. You might be interested to know when I played these demos for Kevin and for my wife, Linda, Kevin said, Blinded by the Sun sounds like classic Brother Cain. Are You In There Anymore sounds like your solo stuff. Linda's reaction was the exact opposite. She goes, Are You In There Anymore sounds like it could have been on the first Brother Cain record. She goes, Blinded by the Sun sounds like Battle Lessons. It's got that big guitar riff in your face,
Yeah.
you know, big guitar solo. And of course, I'm like, well, yes to both of you. Like, you know, and I just think that again, that was just the beauty of bringing in Marti Frederiksen, Robert. He and I speak a different language that we spoke from the day we met each other in 1991. I mean, we met 32 years ago, man, and there would have never been a Brother Cain had it not been for those songs that Marti and I co-wrote back then, man. We just, you know, the label would have thrown a single out there and probably nothing would have happened. So Marti just has an instinctual concept in his brain of who is Damon Johnson, what is Brother Cain, what should it sound like. And when I tell you those two songs came together in the studio so quickly, I just can't overstate that, man.
Yeah.
It just felt like a group of guys that are professionals letting the music kind of let the music guide it. Let's not overthink it. Let's not try to sound contemporary or, oh, we need a drum sound that sounds like Foo Fighters or some other band. There was none of that, man.
Yeah.
Let's just be, you know, veteran musicians recording a new song with all of these years of experience now that we have, that we certainly did not have in 1992 when we recorded that first record.
You know, I've always thought of Brother Cain as a Southern hard rock band. Is it still fair to say that now? Do you still feel that same way?
I do, Robert. I do. I don't know who our contemporaries really are. I didn't know who they were back then, and I don't know now. I do know the Black Crowes were such a massive influence. Um, when I even had the idea of putting my own band together, um, because the Crows covered so many dynamics. People sleep on what a good lyricist Chris Robinson is. Forget what an amazing singer he is, but his storytelling and lyrics are great. And then the dynamics, man, of all those riffs that Rich would bring in, they would have songs that punched as hard as Sting Me, or, Twice as Hard, or Hotel Illness, all those songs on Amorica, but then they could bring it down, man, and just write some of the most beautiful, soulful ballads you've ever heard. I'll never deny, man, those guys were a role model for us, and I still feel that way now. People say, well, who does Brother Cain want to go out and tour with? Again, I think it's the cool thing of being kind of a Southern hard rock band. We could go out with a band like Blackberry Smoke, or we could go out with Cheap Trick, or we could certainly play with Skinner or Sammy Hagar, or any of the classic rock bands, but we could also go out with our contemporaries from the 90s, if it's Candlebox or Stone Temple Pilots, or even bands like Better Than Ezra, the Goo Goo Dolls. We've got enough material in our repertoire that we can make it work
Right.
for, whatever crowd we're in front of. But it is, I like the fact that I called us a Southern hard rock band back then, and I still think that's what we are now.
Cool.
I'm proud of that.
Good for you. You got a tour coming up. It's about 6 weeks, starting October 26th. And I think you alluded to it a little earlier, but are you going to be playing this debut album in its full entirety, or are you going to be mixing it up with all three albums, a combination of all three albums, plus the 2 new songs?
Yeah, we're gonna mix it up. There's just so much material to cover. The band has been so dormant for so long, and in my mind, what I would love to see happen, that is, we get on the road and kind of get in the flow of things. I would love to maybe pick a couple of other songs and work those up at sound check, and then move some things around. Um, None of those records, honestly, Robert, were ever so successful that I would feel compelled, like, oh, there's an audience that wants to hear every song from top to bottom. I just don't think there's enough people that would want to do that. I don't want to neglect to also mention, and I don't know if the press release made this clear, the reissue of the CD of the debut record is going to have 2 previously unreleased
Oh, no,
songs
I didn't know that.
from back then. Yeah, one song is called Rattle My Bones, and the other song is called Cold Heart. And we recorded those at the record plant in Los Angeles in '92, the same time we recorded Hard Act to Follow, Satisfy, all those other songs. And the thing you might get a kick out of is that when you listen to them, you can tell clearly that our 2 biggest influences back then were Guns N' Roses and the Black Crowes. Because Rattle My Bones, I co-wrote with a Hollywood legend, West Cain. West was famously credited in Appetite for Destruction as the 6th member of Guns N' Roses, because he co-wrote that song "It's So Easy" with Duff and Axl and Izzy. So he and I wrote "Rattle My Bones" together, and then "Cold Heart" is a total Black Crowes ripoff. Like, it's in that 6/8 time, and it's got the big organ and the piano, and
I'm excited.
I'm singing about as soulfully as a totally inexperienced guitar player Southerner could possibly.
That's awesome. I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, man, it's just, again, it's so fun that this stuff is coming out, and
That's great.
Grateful to have a good team helping me.
I want to be respectful to your time. And my last question, what's involved with dusting off some of these older songs? Do you have to listen to the records and try and get in that mindset of when you were in your 20s and get it all over again? Get the vibe?
Yeah, I definitely want to get the vibe from the last 20 years of doing a fair amount of solo concerts too, Robert. I've learned that it's essential to own the lyric. Like, you got to know it.
Yeah.
I can connect with the listener much better if I'm kind of closing my eyes and going to whatever place I went when I wrote it, and kind of deliver it with some kind of intent
Mhm.
and authenticity. So a lot of times, man, it literally just takes some repetition. I've got a little office similar to this at my house, and I'll literally stand there with a guitar and a microphone in front of me, and then just either play along with the original recording, or I'll just sing it on my own, you know, drive my wife and kids crazy. But yeah, it's, I love revisiting that stuff. And again, it's a testament to the quality of the songs. They've held up over all these years, and there's minimal songs off all three records that there's a couple lyrics where I'm like, I don't feel that way anymore. I don't want to sing that one. But I'm the only one that knows. I
Yeah,
don't make a big deal out of it. But thankfully, those songs have really held up, and
excellent.
credit to the songs Marty and I wrote together, and to the original band. Listen, I would be remiss not to mention those guys. We went through a once in a lifetime experience together. Had it not been for their investment of their time and their lives into being on the road, and we all believed we were going to get to the mountaintop, Robert, and
Right,
that's
right.
why we worked so hard for so long. So credit to those guys, and I hope we see some of them along the way while we're out there.
Great. Well, listen, I want to thank you so much for your time. Such an insightful interview. I'm excited about the band, and I'm going to see you in Denellen, New Jersey. I'll come out.
Can't wait, Robert. Listen, man, thank you so much, buddy. You're always so fantastic to talk to.
You too.
Continued success to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
So going to get
I'll
to
see
you.
you. You got it. I'll see you in November.
Sounds good. Take it easy.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
brother. You too, man. See you.